Hi, welcome to Sunless Sea Zubmarine DLC. Failbetter were kind enough to offer me a press version of the DLC, but it was in my spam folder stupidly, and I only found it today because I realised it was released today. Anyway, I've loaded an old save. I haven't played this in forever since I uploaded the last videos. I wrote a little program to extract all the data files and let me play it in a web page. And updated the wiki with lots of stuff and made a few videos for this. So if you enjoyed that, please do click the eye on the top right and check out the playlists. It's mostly guides, but you may enjoy it. It's a brilliantly written game. I absolutely love the general feel that this place gives. We are back in London, and I'm going to go straight to acquire the Submarine without really exploring anything else. I played for about 3 minutes just to reacquaint myself with the controls. But let's head off. It's in Port Carnelian, which for some reason never ever showed up on the map with an icon, and it still doesn't. I may have fiddled with the game files, I can't remember. I didn't change any of my cache or anything like that, but I think when I left I was fiddling with creatures to try and load some which weren't in the core game, well, you'll see. Anyway, the equipment I've got is fairly endgame. I've got the second best boat, which is arguably the better one because it's got a bigger hold. It can take 70 items. I picked up the Winter Dude, who I hadn't seen before. Presumably he's not part of this DLC, but he wanted to go to Pigmo Isle, so I thought we would swing by there. You can see I kill stuff pretty effectively with my weapons. We got a firkin of prisoner's honey, hurrah! Battle popped up there, I don't know what that was, but regardless, let's carry on. Pigmo Isle is not so very far away. I'm going to skip through a lot of this. What I'll do is pause for the readings of things. I won't dwell too much on Mr. Wintermute, or whatever his name is. I can't believe I've already forgotten, despite him being a terrifying, terrifying bugger. And there's a western angler crab. Standard practice, just back away and then fly into them when you've taken them down. Anyway, Pigmo Isle is here, and this is, let's see, what's his name? Mr. Sachs. First delivery. You've gained 3 Scintillac, total 4. I will stop off at the Isle of Cats for his second delivery, but we're going to cut ahead to Port Carnelian. Apologies for not showing the mouse, but you should be able to see what I'm clicking. So, Port Carnelian. Here we are. The house is built in the tall porticoed London style, red brick on white plaster, decorative iron railings painted black. Its mistress is the subject of intense colonial gossip, independently wealthy, an industrialist's daughter, a widow unwelcome in London. What then does she want with you? An invitation arrived as soon as you docked. Accept her invitation. You expected a sizable gathering, but it's just you, her, and a decanter of admirable sherry. She's not a small woman and comprehensively occupies her armchair. She wears sensible satins and sensible shoes. Her hair is impeccably curled. I've heard a number of shocking things about you, Captain, all of which I consider thoroughly promising. Her accent has a hint of Midlands melancholy to it. She must have spent much of her life on the surface. For a time she asks questions about your travels and listens avidly. A question, Captain, she tops up her sherry. Some years ago, the nations of Nice struck an agreement to abandon their research into submarine travel and leave the Z-depths untouched. Ah, the agreement about nothing of consequence. Sailors mutter about it when listening to the Admiralty's follies. You nod. She raises her glass to her lips. And what is your opinion of this agreement? She asks. Approve of it, obviously. It's probably for the best. The Z's surface is bad enough. It's a nonsense. No air should be forbidden to the capable explorer. Her smile is conspiratorial. Then we can help each other. I'm prepared to finance in a large part improvements to your ship that will make it capable of submarine travel. The Admiralty and other powers disapprove of such innovation, therefore we need to be discreet. I've procured experts, labourers, and many others. On the shore of a gloomy inlet stands a rickety factory. Once, and supposedly still, it was committed to the cutting and polishing of sapphires. Now it is the place where the fierce philanthropist houses her intrepid staff of engineers. The ingenious men and women who will convert your ship into a submarine. I'm going to go straight for the 100 here. Sacrifice an extraordinary implication for 100 experimental modifications. I have 7, which I suspect I shouldn't have. One engineer begins to laugh, seemingly unable to stop. Another weeps. The tears scorch his face like kettle water. A third frantically tries to write down what you said, but gives up when a third pen combusts in lavender flame. This changes everything, a grease-stained engineer whispers. Later, his colleagues catch him out back, burning his collected volumes of the Transactions of the South Wales Institute of Engineers. Fortunately, your vessel benefits from the drastic adjustments to their perspective. Her turbines whirl, her pumps thunder. A river of cabling runs through her interior, dense as the weave in a Turkish carpet. You now have 100. You can trade Z stories. So, phase 2, we need to retrieve a set of sonar schematics. The engineers have reached an impasse. It's the sonar. It's unreliable, loud, and stops working below 70 leagues. So we must go to Khan's Shadow or Station 3. Now, Mr. Sachs wants to go to Khan's Shadow, so we're going to double that up and head over there. That's to the northeast in this particular map configuration. It's usually in the eastern section. The way the maps generate, they have different sections that things can appear in. You can see some blue prophets down there, which I killed, and their icon remained, which was unfortunate, but such is life. Now these albino moray, which are really close here, will drop, if you pick the second option, hunting trophies, which you can use to upgrade your submarine as well. But we will head up this way to Khan's Shadow. I'm just running this. Yeah, Mr. Sachs popped up and he started to get a bit shirty about me not doing his tasks. I figured I'd leave the Khanate war trireme. The Khanate gets kind of upset if you kill stuff. There's a bound shark though. They're actually, I'd forgotten how lack of terrifying, how unterrifying these creatures were. But don't worry, we're about to meet some truly terrifying things when we go down below. There's the Isle of Cats. Just stopped off to deliver Mr. Sachs stuff. And there was a smuggler's reward. I was clearly in the middle of a quest there, but just refueling and resupplying. And there's Mr. Sachs there. King Leopold examines the small jewelled bird. Right, now he wants to go up to the Avid Horizon, which is way on the north. Yeah, this crewman stops out and he gives you your third delivery, a vial of highly questionable blood, which is to do with Mr. Sachs. Anyway, up to Khan's Shadow. And I'd forgotten how beautiful these little islands, I suppose, are. This one's barely an island. But plunder the decommissioned remains of the Stone Turtle, an old research vessel. It's interesting, lots of things pop up when you've got the submarine active, so there's a whole bunch of new stories. Anyway, your bosun applies bolt cutters to a chain securing entry. Slipping inside, you close the door, muting the glamour of the shadow and light lamps. The hull is well preserved. Down in the hold are orderly piles of crates, boxes, and cabinets. Eventually you discover a detailed set of schematics that, despite the complexities of Khane's script, look like something. Too quick. Anyway, back to Port Carnelian for us. Where we're going to complete our submarine travels. Complete phase 2, you brandish the pilfered sonar schematics. They set to work immediately. Your ship is docked at the workshop and concealed beneath a set of awnings. Beneath, hammers ring, drills whir, mechanics argue, reconcile, improvise. From the outside, your ship looks largely unaltered, but inside, new pipes gleam. A satisfying lever stands by the helm, surrounded by an array of mysterious gauges and dials. This extends the shell hull, a weary engineer explains. Don't pull it until you're out at Z, eh? The fierce philanthropist offers you a sherry. We've done it, she says, to your new journeys, Captain, wherever they may lead. If you trade this ship for another, your chief engineer, okay, that's basically saying that your ship will always have this upgrade now, and your future captains may convert their ships to submarines without cost. Hurrah! So, without further ado, let us away into the murky deeps. There's a very cool animation here where chunk, 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 this slides over, and there's a oxygen bar on the left, which I didn't notice until a little bit later. Sonar lets you see beneath the Z. When underwater, it highlights nearby obstacles, discoveries, and creatures with a dim blue something. You'll notice the map stays the same as well, with a dim blue glow. You'll have to get closer to find out what they are. And that's clearly an evil beast. I didn't think I could attack, and only just noticed when I was doing the video that actually, in a second, the attack icons fill. I thought I'd have to get torpedoes or something like that for underwater combat, but thankfully it lets you use your old weapons, otherwise it would honestly be a bit of a nightmare. But you can see here now the weapons are warming up, but I ended up just scooting it because it's in the middle of a vortex, which is probably why it's not coming at me, in all thankfulness. Here are some of those blue squiggles that I mentioned in the tutorial. Whale bones. The Z has not been kind. The colossal skull is intact, but the body has been reduced to a gnawed frame of bones. Carvings have been scored into the bones. Sadly, I failed the pages test and gained some terror. But still exploring. There's Mr. Sachs. Oh God, Mr. Sachs. An old Londoner's trick. It can work once. Mr. Sachs is silent for a moment. May you experience all the generosity that you deserve, it intones, stepping into the darkness and taking the light and all memory of light with it. I don't like Mr. Sachs. But what's this? Apart from something that I bumped my ship against. It's Igel, so you can actually see the unexplored places on the map are new underground places, which I've only realised since I've been recording. And there's a treasure over there. Is it a treasure? What's it to be? It's a thalat. Or a thality, if you'd prefer. I think it's a thalat. This one is bad because it shoots back, which is no good to man or beast. I should have overshot it, but it's actually got a pretty tight turning circle. I don't know how much use that would have been, but you can see there it shoots back. My health's still fine, 310 out of 450, but I came out a little damaged. Still, it's going down, and we shall see what treasures it holds within its maw. Goodbye, Thalat. The observation dome is silent. Your navigator's breath is loud in the stillness. In death, the Thalat looks like a grisly collage of an untamed vivisectionist. Mercifully, most of it stopped moving. You run out of note cards before you run out of different parts to classify. What I did notice is I gained 1 pages for failing that challenge, which is quite interesting. So it seems like there's going to be ways to get really easy points down here. I don't know if that was a random occurrence. I will dig in the files at some point after I've played through. Anyway, here we are at Igel. No shipyard, unfortunately. There is a shipyard somewhere, I can't remember quite where, somewhere maybe in the southwest. The Iron Isles, or whatever it's called, that's Game of Thrones. Shh. Anyway, bit of refueling. Requisitions, a grounded submarine has little need for. I missed that. Bribe the first mate. We need some solace fruit, which I think I could have bought from Port Carnelian. I'm not sure. Maybe they just bought it, as in you could sell it there. But we might have to take a little adventure off to get some of that as well. Assemble a port report for the Admiralty. You gather a description of the Fortis kettle and a survey of its resources. You scrape away a little of the sealant, the colour of amber, and the texture of wax that keeps out seawater where the hull is pierced by something. Next time. The problem is playing in real time and recording in real time. I don't get to speed stuff up afterwards. Anyway, this is running at 4 times speed. I'm just having a bit of a swim around. All these things, you can see those are currents that you can ride to save a bit of fuel. These black things are islands above you. You don't want to ride into them. I did somewhat foolishly and lost some health. I also thought that, let's see what that is. Oh, +1 supplies. The Z's bounty sustains us. I also lost a bit of, yeah, so you don't want to go into those. What was I going to say? I thought I had the attachment. I thought the fungent impeller couldn't explode, but it clearly can. So you'll see later my engines explode as well, which is why I've been using overdrive a lot. Loot the putter pony. Quickly, the damage done to its shell was immense. Already the hull is collapsing. Hear the crew's last wishes. Water pours into the putter pony. Its tormented metal groans as it's torn by the Z. A woman's face appears at a porthole. It swiftly fogs with her last breath. Oh, but we got some treasures. And now away. You can see the O2 going down there, so I had to come up. I'm hoping, apologies if I've mentioned this, but I'm hoping that there's a quest to allow you to take more O2 on. That would be very nice. Now, while I was waiting, Mr. Sachs came up, so I figured I'd better head north to Avid Horizon while I was waiting for the O2 to renew. Because I didn't want to start losing stat points to him. Avid Horizon is way up at the north. I think the north coast and the west coast don't change, if I remember correctly. As soon as you dock, Mr. Sachs lumbers ashore. It's been preparing for this. Plunging a hand into its cloak, it removes a handful of ammonia-scented snow. I'm going to give my blood. A few drops should suffice. You nick your hand with the blade and hold it above the frozen mound. A drop wells up and falls, more follow, they fizz in the lacquer, which softens and melts into a puddle of snow. A puddle from which a hand emerges, then a head, then another hand, stretching as it clambers up from nowhere. The shape of a child, its skin glistening, white snow rippled with red. We can approach the snow child, which I end up doing, and take him on board. I think I ended up calling him... Oh, look at that. The pictures in this are amazing, as is the writing. It's just perfect. Sneguruchka. I like that name. And then, yeah, my engines exploded. Did they explode yet, or was it a bit later? I think it was there. So my hull is way down. I was riding that current out. I thought I would explore a little bit more on the way back to London. Also, fuel, you can see, is going to become a concern very quickly. I hadn't noticed. Restless nights. There's a mine there that you can just clank into. I'm very, very happy it didn't explode, but look, it's still glowing, so I need to go back and investigate that at some point. And then just riding the currents. Clonked into that as well. I didn't think they'd be so mean as to have something directly in the line of a current, but there we are. Oh god, it's a neither. These things shoot back as well. But fortunately it is stuck in the... Oh, maybe they don't. It's stuck in the current, so it couldn't really catch me. Continue shining a light upon it. Never trust anything that seems in a hurry to die. An extraordinary implication, and I lost 2 terror. Hurrah! And once again, O2's running out. Now I'm stuck in that horrible... oh, so those things create the currents. That's very sneaky. But you can see my fuel's about to run out, so I flipped up to Mount Palmerston, and you'll see that talk to a veiled woman. She begins commandingly, as though you'd met at a salon in London, as though there were a burning mountain on her back, and as though you were socially just a little her inferior. "Thank goodness, someone who might help me," she says. "I've been searching everywhere. My brother is troubled, you see, troubled by some past difficulties." Listen to what she wants. He used to work for the Admiralty. Something happened to distress him there. When I asked him about it, he said he had enough to worry about. With my own concerns, my husband was ill at the time, but I couldn't help him. So we've got to go back to Eiger. That's the long and the short of that. So I thought I'd ride back to London under the Z. Under the Z. And here we go, Anthe. Crashed into that, lost a bit more hull. And there's a wreck. The cabins of the wreck are intact. Something of value may have survived. As you peer through a porthole, a finned shadow sweeps past. 21 salvaging a wreck. So this is basically like when you loot stuff. 5 Scintillac. So now we're up to 9. I remember Scintillac being actually really hard to find, so it's quite good that you can get it underground. It actually will really help with the quests. But then I went into Anthe, and this terrifying constant companion appeared. So now, based on its name, I'm worried he's going to follow me around. Note the hull and the number of crew I have. Only 11. But enough. Those who go sharp. The inhabitants of Anthe go sharp. Anthe? Not all at once, but piece by piece they turn to crystal. They sort themselves by sharpness too. The sharp-handed cluster with others of their kind, ignoring the keen-footed and the brittle-waisted. To progress through Anthe is to take on more and more of these attributes, to enter the dark chambers, restricted by sharp style. Choose what chambers you would most like to discover. The Antheans speak of a woman named Rosina, dying of a curious disease and sequestered among the sharp-spleened. You've seen the outer chambers of Anthe. Consider your own condition, should you go sharp. Learning and rumour. Consult the woman with cubicle eyes. Learn how to accept the blessings that Anthe offers. Cultivate the capacity for sharpness. Go sharp in the spleen, go sharp in the liver, flourish in the groin. Let your skin be as clear as water and hard as armour. Relinquish the pursuit for now. I think I went sharp in the spleen. So this is clearly a way to increase sharpness, or increase the ability to be sharp. Whatever that might mean. I think I chose to go sharp in the spleen. Join the society of diplomats, saints, and cold-blooded tyrants. Descend into the Anthe chamber, reserved for those who flourish at the spleen. The stone of the chamber is veined with red. Some members of the Venus Salon wear clothes that reveal the midriff, so one can see the telltale points of crystal form under their skin. There's a party game here to take turns reading aloud offensive letters to the London newspapers and insulting missives from home, and to compete at not caring in the least. And my spleen is a hexagonal crystal. Anyway, let's visit Rosina in her chambers. The air gets chillier as you approach, and there are patches of frost on the walls. The cavern is crowded. In the centre is a bathtub full of ice, in which sits a woman in an obvious state of illness. Several Antheans attend her, one with deft, clear fingers. Then there are a number of other people attending, who mostly talk amongst themselves, but sometimes turn to watch Rosina. Let's meet her. She has seen you come in. Rosina is dying of ammonescence, the disease of the elder continent. Any passion speeds the disease. She must therefore lie very still in an ice bath and think of things that do not interest her. Going sharp in the spleen protects her against the passion of anger, but other passions are still a danger. For a long time she looked for a cure to the disease. Tradition ascribes healing features to certain poems, ointments, and postures of the body, but these only delay the gradual combustion. You now have 1 times Anthe Rosina's acquaintance. An occurrence. Your Anthe Rosina's health quality is now 10, almost stable. So I figure we're probably going to have to do something to save her, much like the engineer lady, I forget exactly who. So, let's learn more of Rosina, speak to her of her choices, and what she requires. For a long time she looked for cures of the body. I was certain the inhabitants of the elder continent would be able to correct what is wrong, she says, but if they know how, they refuse to say. And now I merely keep back the disease as long as I can, and seek cures of the sentiment instead. If I keep very calm, my symptoms subside. If you find anything in your travels, works of philosophy or guidance, that may help me compose myself, please bring them to me. New total 2. Find out what the onlookers are for. They aren't assisting in any medical proceedings, a chancy challenge. Let's do it. Carrion birds. You put your question. Rosina glances over at the cluster of men and women. Her expression is blank. The emotion that ought to be there has been controlled, or wiped away. There are certain idiotic sects, she says. People who want to suffer what I have. They follow me around, hoping to be infected by my conflagration. The way is steep, up-cut stone stairs. Sometimes it becomes a ladder rather than a staircase at all. And then, yeah. So, off we go. There's some other bits and pieces to do here, but they're all kind of locked for the time being, short of cutting away your sharpness, but I'm intrigued by this. So I think we're going to continue with it in the next video. Nights of Meditation. You succeeded in a Hearts challenge. You can now take on a single sharpness, although they still appear to be locked, strangely. But, yeah, again, one to worry about another time. Anyway, this constant companion fella, you can see my hull, I'm just going to sit up and have a look, is 191 after that explosion and a little bit of skillful crashing. And this guy is a monster. The Hungry Dead. He's come and stolen some supplies, but I'm going to take him back to where he came from. In the meantime, this constant companion, ooh, lordy me. I thought I could dock and maybe get away from it, but alas, I cannot. So he comes in and starts mashing me up in a fairly terrible way. I thought maybe I could hide in there and he'd get bored, but sadly not. You can see every time he bangs me, he is... oh, here he comes. I thought maybe it'd be an easy fight, but there, look, he clonks me on the back and lost 2 crew and 40 damage. And then he gets me again. And so now I'm down to 9 crew, lost another 2 crew and 40 damage, and at this point I've got 110. And now he's shooting, and he's increasing terror, and it's all just a bit wrong. My terror's getting worryingly high, so I figured I would just get to the surface quickly before he completely destroyed my boat. You can notice the tutorial went a bit wonky there. Die, you can always engage more in London and sometimes other ports. Weird. And it popped up earlier with just a comma in it, which was very odd. Anyway, back to London from Anthe. I figured I would stay above the surface, but ended up towards Venderbite and popped in. Venderbite's really good because for just, I think, 50 echoes, you can reduce your terror by 5, so it's 10 per terror, and it was pretty worryingly high, so I did that quite a lot until I got it down to 20 or so. Yeah, it seemed like the right thing to do. And then back to London to go into the dry dock. But that's it for now. I will carry this on, I think, over the weekend or possibly next week. But it's a lot of fun. I like the extra stuff, and I like the fact that a lot of the ports now have new things to do based on being a submarine. Anyway, on the left, Deus Ex, if you are interested in something a bit different, and on the right I will link that to the next video in this series, but check the playlist on the top right for more. See you in the next video. Bye!